Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, did the Braves make the right decision sending down Michael Soroka?
And I recently caught up with what you could call the new Minister of Defense for the Falcons, and he had a word.
And last but not least, and for the culture, do we even want to watch Hard Knocks anymore? That's all coming up next, right here on ATL Day Ones. Let's get it.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
I want to start by saying thank you for making ATL Day One your first listen of the day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. Really appreciate that from you in advance. ATL Day Ones is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. T, when you think about the Michael Soroka being brought up and all the things that he had to deal with, not being able to pitch in the major leagues since 2020. That's a very long time. I don't understand why I keep wanting to say 1920. But anyway, I think that it was a very long time since he had been on the mound, and he got his second start this past Sunday against the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he actually struggled, T. And that's one of the things that I kind of paid attention to, and we'll talk about this a little bit later as far as A.J. Smith-Shawver. But I think that when you look at the decision for the Braves to move him down to AAA, do you feel like that was the right decision?
It's hard for me to second guess Alex Anthopoulos and Brian Snitker, but when I listened back to some post-game comments immediately following the game, it sounded very encouraging. And right. Brian Snitker said that basically, hey, he's got to just, take the lumps, if you will, and he'll get stronger as time goes on. And it sounded to me like that was a non-committal, but still encouraging enough to say, hey, we just understand he might be our 5C. And when I say 5C, meaning Jared Schuster might be 5A, Dylan Dodd might be 5B, and Michael Soroka might be 5C. So I believe, and just kind of reading through the tea leaves on Twitter even yesterday with those of us who cover the Braves, I think it was a shock to everybody because It just feels like it's too soon. And I think to myself, for someone to be out for almost 3 years, the mental fortitude that it takes to withstand that and then come back and just get through time after time, you've got 2 outs and hey, I get it. 2-out situations were not his friend on Sunday. But right, I also wonder if you send him back down this soon, is that good for his mental psyche? As far as just believing in himself to be able to get back to some semblance of what he was, like you said, in his 2020 rookie campaign when he was the opener for the Braves, opening day starter for 2021. I don't know, Jarvis. I really kind of wish maybe after 3 starts, if it had gone downhill again, I think I might have been a little bit more okay with that.
Yeah.
2 starts kind of troubles me.
Yeah, he gave up 7 hits, 5 runs, 4 walks, and 2 home runs.
I know, and an 8.38 ERA. I get it. That's a lot. I know. Yeah. But still, I wonder.
I think that I'm at this point with Michael Soroka, because what's the rush? Because if you want to keep him up, and I think given the situation, here's the thing. Given the situation where the Braves are right now, where they are literally struggling, I don't think that he needs to be used in that manner just because they need an arm. And I think he needs to be given all the patience and grace that he needs, and I think right now that for him to be down in AAA to be able to kind of figure things out, I don't think he needs to be figuring things out on the major league level. I think that will hurt his psyche more trying to do right or get it right on this level because it's a lot more pressure on this level. In AAA, you can kind of play around some things. You can work on some things. You can tweak some things. You can tweak a couple of things as you go between starts and stuff like that. So I think it's the good move right now. But for me, I started to think about what are the short term consequences or benefits for it, or what are the long-term benefits for it. And I think that one of the things that I feel like is probably going to be a benefit in the short term for the Braves is the fact that we're going to get a chance to maybe potentially see a start from A.J. Smith-Shawver because Jamie and I talked about yesterday about how Alex Anthopoulos is out here doing work again. rushed him up. This dude was just in high school 2 years ago. So, you know what I mean? So I think it's going to be really cool to see how they work him in to maybe potentially get a start probably this weekend. I think David O'Brien of the Athletic, he's super tapped in. So if he mentions something, more than likely it's going to happen. So, yeah, I think that I'll be looking forward in the short term as to Michael Soroka figuring it out down in AAA and A.J. Smith-Shawver, like, hey, what does this dude look like? Because we said that he has some very similar qualities to Spencer Strider as far as that, that rise. And I think it'd be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, that's probably the one thing that makes it okay. And again, I would have been okay with the send down. I just wouldn't have, I'm still not okay after 2 games. I would have preferred it to be 3 because then one game could be a decent game or an up game. One game could be super, super down. Let me get 3. That breaks that 3 gives me a true average of what I feel like I need to see. But again, I'm not AA, I'm not SNIT, but their eye is amazing.
Yes.
What they're able to see when no one else is quite seeing it. I mean, seeing it, but not quite to the degree that they are. So yeah, I'm excited about AJ Smith-Shawver being called up and the possibility, and as you mentioned, the likelihood that we're going to see him get a start, especially because now going back to a point that you did make, when you have the Mets coming up in a 3-game series and you've got your guns ready to rock and roll, like Bryce Elder coming out of the gate strong tonight, hopefully against Carlos Carrasco, and you want to put 3 bigs, for lack of a better term, up against them. You got the lowly Nats coming through. So you know what? That would be an opportunity. If you're not going to give Soroka an opportunity, a third chance to show himself in that series, then yeah, give it to AJ Smith-Shawver because I mean they're the Nats.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you brought up that team up in New York because like I'm so annoyed by them. I know they're in 3rd place in a division in the Miami Marlins. Look out for the Marlins. They are 3 games behind the Braves right now, so that's a team we have to pay some attention to. But I think that. I was listening to Hitting Hard with John Trucker. Make sure you guys check him out. He's some good stuff going on over there. He was talking about how it's time to crush the Mets. And I wholeheartedly agree. It is time to finish these dudes, put these dudes up under the grave, 6 feet deep, because we don't want to even smell them after the 4th of July. After the break, I don't even want to hear any conversations about the New York Mets. If the Phillies are going to run, that's cool. That's all well and good. If the Miami Marlins are trying to make a run and trying to be good, at least for 1 year like they normally do, and then go back to, selling off all their great players, yeah, that's cool too. But I do not want to hear anything about the Mets after the 4th of July. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to them to go ahead and crush these guys tonight.
Yeah, and I don't know if we're going to not hear anything that soon. I don't think that door closes that soon, but I do agree that this would be a great opportunity to just kind of twist the knife. To me, that's to me, it becomes mental as well, because like you said, the Marlins may be just 3 games behind the Braves, but the Braves have their number. So I feel like you don't have to twist the knife in them because I think they're a little bit shook by you anyway. I think they're triggered, and that's why they're always trying to hit poor Ronald Acuna Jr. Let's just be real. But I think with the Mets, you might need to take that knife and twist it all the way in and continuously twist it now because, like you said, Jarvis, it's time now, right now. Send a message. Let's not wait until the next series. Let's just go ahead and send these fools a message now. And I didn't mean to call them fools because I'm always really a nice person. But sometimes it's like, it's kind of frustrating because you're thinking to yourself, where in the world have the Mets done anything of recent that they should even be in the conversation with the Braves?
Absolutely. I just have to let you guys know that this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It is the #1 sportsbook in America. Guess what? The NBA Finals are finally about to get here. Like, it got like 7 days off. I don't know when the thing gonna end, probably end in July. But, when they do get started back on Wednesday, you can start making some bets. And guess what? You need to go to FanDuel Sportsbook because it is safe, it's secure, it's super easy to use. You can even bet on points scored, the over-unders, the money line, all those things you can do right there, and it's just for you. And guess what? You don't even have to wait around for your money. You get it instantly as soon as that bad boy clears. And guess what? For all you new customers, listen up, guys. This is super special. They have the no sweat first bet. That's up to $2,500. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. All you have to do is go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to take advantage of the no sweat first bet up to $2,500. And guess what? They are the official sports betting book of the NBA.
And if you are betting on the Falcons being in the conversation and in the mix past December or even early January, you're in good company because Arthur Smith and Drake London are betting on the same. Arthur Smith said he was planning to play 20 to 21 games this season in reference to rushing guys back who missed a lot of time last season due to injury. So how significant is it to you that right here in June, Coach Smith is already talking to the media about going to the postseason?
You know what, T? I find it interesting because, Arthur Smith, he's the type of guy where he doesn't like to reveal anything, like nothing at all. And a lot of times we find out things that he says or behind closed doors through the players, and a lot of times they kind of like blurt it out, have diarrhea of the mouth and kind of say to some of the things that he says to them. And then you kind of get an understanding of where they're trying to go. But for those words to come out of his mouth and say, you know what, hey, we're looking to play 20 to 21 games. And, that's the game. The season is only 17. So, hey, they're trying to get to the playoffs and also make some noise once they get there. So I think it's very significant because I think that when you look at what they've done in this offseason, they waited around for 2 years to be able to actually spend some money. And then they spent money on the defensive side of the football to get some veterans in because they didn't like the idea of having young guys being drafted to come in and go through that learning curve. Grady Jarrett even mentioned that the other day when he spoke to the media. He's talking about like, hey, he got somebody in David Onyemata that he knows is going to come in and play right away. You know exactly what to expect from him. So I think that, when you have that, you built up the defense, you got a defense coordinator that you like that kind of matches your style of play and what you want to go with. So now on the offensive side of the football, you established yourself last year, the top 5 rushing team in the NFL, and you built upon that. You brought your guys back on the offensive line. You spent the money there. There's a lot of money invested up front. So you're going to expect those guys to be better this year. So I think that when you have all of those things coming into play, yeah, I'll probably be confident too, T.
Yeah, and when I asked him about the change, just the difference, year 1, year 2, and now year 3 for him, because we always talk about it from the player perspective, right? Like, especially if you're a rookie going into your second year or what have you, he responded and he basically went right. And I said, boy, one thing about him is he's straight no chaser. Even though he doesn't give you a lot, when he does give it to you, it's going to be direct. And he literally said, well, my expectation is that's going to be different is this is going to be a winning season at home. Yeah. So he said, he talked about the ups, the evens, the downs over the last 2 years. And he said, home field should be home. I kind of coined this, but he basically said there should be an advantage there. So I was like, yeah, home field should be home field advantage. And so he wants to set that stage and set the tone. And I said, especially coming back with back-to-back home games to open the season, which is great. And then we kind of went into that conversation, like you said, about the 2021 games. And then, Jarvis, it was repeated recently by a player to talk about the consistency of it. Drake London had this to say about it on Good Morning Football on Monday.
At the point we're at right now, I think that if you're not thinking about playing 20 plus games, then what are you doing? Our mentality and our goal is to just keep on playing through the postseason and make it to the big one. And I think you feel that in the locker room right now. Everybody's juiced, everybody's hyped to get to work. And I think we're all on the same path.
Oh, wow. That says a lot because, I think Drake is the guy that, he's seems to me like the type of guy that, like, whatever the coach says, like, that's what we're going to do. And he's all in for it because when he started talking about, I asked him about, coach coming up the plays and everything like that, and where he comes up with the plays, he started talking about positionless football, and some of those things, start throwing those things out there because you could tell the dude is super excited about what the potential they can do on the offensive side of the football. That's why I said my expectations for them, like, these dudes got to be putting up 26, 27 points a game because, like you said, like, the money's being invested up in the offensive line, so you're pretty solid up there in what you're going to be bringing to the table on Sundays. And then with all of the pass catchers, like, I'm not even naming positions, all of the pass catchers that you have, all of the running backs that you have, you can hand the ball off to. I think this offense is up to something special, and I think Drake London is feeling the same way as well.
And speaking of feeling the same and just having that consistency, I actually heard that thread throughout players, coaches, and one of the individuals I was excited to speak with on Friday was assistant head coach defense Jerry Gray, because just so much that he's done, we like to call him the DB whisperer on some level, absolutely. But really he's impacted defenses across the league for almost 3 decades. So I thought it was interesting as well. So now you're talking about the head coach, and he puts it out there, 20 to 21 games. And then you hear a cosign from Drake London saying, hey, that's the culture we're establishing here, that we have that expectation of ourselves. And then you hear it from Jerry Gray and saying that was one of the main reasons that he wanted to come here. And it's interesting because I was speaking, there were 3 of us that were talking to Coach Gray on Friday. Joe Patrick, our guy here over at 92.9, Tori McElhaney, analyst and writer, reporter for AtlantaFalcons.com, and me. And the 3 of us had kind of conversed before we started talking to Jerry, because we all were like, the 3 of us were excited. We didn't really care who else was in the building. Yeah. When Jerry Gray walked through, the 3 of us just got a shot over there. So he jumps in, and I think Michael Ronstein of ESPN.com may have stopped over as well. But my point being, we all had the same questions, which was, why Falcons? That's where we started. Why this organization over any other? And he said it was because he felt like the very culture Smith talked about, the very culture London talked about, he feels that he can establish and solidify that for them. When you think about the success that he's had for so many other franchises within football, do you think that he's co-signing on that as well, saying, yeah, we think you are another one of those guys. You came here because we believe you can solidify a winning culture, and he can actually do it?
Yeah, I believe so. And my main reason for saying that is because you have so many people, different people saying the same thing, right? Because Grady talked about this on Friday about, there's one thing for you to believe within the organization, right? Arthur Smith believes because he's been here for the past 2 years. Grady Jarrett believes because he's been here for the past 2 years and he's seen it. But when you have guys like a Ryan Nielsen deciding to come here to lead the Saints, the organization that he's been with for quite some time, they gave him the opportunity to be able to coach in the NFL and establish himself as a prime candidate. You also talk about Calais Campbell, a veteran, who he ain't trying to come here just to make no money. Like, he's trying to come to win. You got Jerry Gray, who has done so many things and accomplished so many things, playing in the NFL as well. Like, it's hard to sell those cats a hill of beans or some magic beans. Like, football players, football coaches, they see through all the bull crap. And for them to be able to see through the bull crap and actually see what Arthur Smith has going on here and essentially say the same thing that Arthur Smith is saying, has been telling us, like it's hard for you not to believe, because like you see the vision, you see the plan. We talked about Terry Fontenot before the offseason even start, about what's the vision, what's the plan, what are you trying to do? And I think we're seeing it, and it's pretty clear because you got people from outside the organization coming here and saying, you know what? I want to be here too.
Yeah. And I think that's very powerful, because you make an excellent point about the fact that internally you can be excited because you've had the good fortune, or not so good fortune, of seeing the Arthur Smith regime either in year 1 or year 2 or both. And going into year 3, you already know what it looks like. You already know what it feels like to overachieve, if you will. Now we're at a point in place where you're saying, okay, no more overachievement. We have an expectation that we're going to be better. So a Drake London, year 2, I'm going to be better. Even a Kyle Pitts. Now, we didn't hear from him necessarily, but we spoke to Dave Ragone and others on Friday talking about the expectations, like, hey, give him a break. We feel like he's going to be that guy that we saw in year 1. Year 2 was filled with injuries and challenges with folks under center. So exactly, there it is. We try to be nice to folks on ATL Day Ones, but we also call it what it is. Given that Kyle will have his 3rd year under Dave Ragone, given that he'll have a quarterback that he's able to vibe with better and just really have more field rapport on and off the field, but also his body will actually agree with him and cooperate with him. I think we're going to see so much better. But hey, everydayers, what are your thoughts on the fact that we are hearing right now on the NBA final side a lot about culture, heat culture? What about Falcons culture? What does that culture look like to you? Are you buying in as well? We know it's still on paper right now. We know we haven't even gotten to mandatory mini camp, but at the end of the day, with what you have seen, offseason moves, expectations, attitude, etc. Let us know what you guys think. Check us out on YouTube. Drop some of the comments. If you drop some good ones, we will actually share those comments on air as well. And of course, don't forget that wherever you download every other podcast, you might as well download ATL Day Ones and take us with you wherever you go in and around Atlanta Metro.
But T, this is for the culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, the culture, and sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about. Because that's just how we get down on the show. Today is no different. T, when you think about NFL Hard Knocks, that's one of the shows that I used to absolutely love watching. I used to make sure it was appointment viewing for me. Even my wife, you know her, and she's not a big time sports fan. She even enjoyed it as well because it gave you a really good insight into what the teams do during the training camps, and there are always good storylines to follow along with. But now it seems like nobody wants to do it, and it looks like the NFL is going to force 4 teams. We're going to pick from one of those 4 teams: the Commanders, the Jets, the Saints, and the Chicago Bears. So out of those 4, T, does any one of them tickle your fancy at all?
Well, being from New Orleans, I'd be curious.
Okay.
I'd be curious to see what goes on behind the scenes with the Saints, kind of how it compares to the Falcons, which we've seen some of the behind the scenes with the Falcons, maybe not me Hard Knock style because I wasn't covering them at that time,
right?
But just, we see the ins and outs as reporters. And then I've seen a little bit of the inner workings of the Bucs, having covered them. Don't know much about the Panthers. So yeah, I don't know. I probably would be most interested in the Saints. And then I would say that's my 1A, and then my 1B would be with the Bears, just because I'd be interested to see what Justin Fields and company is up to these days.
Yeah, you know what? I'm with you on that one, because that was initially I said the New York Jets, because Aaron Rodgers coming there, and then Robert Salah. I kind of rock with him as a head coach because I love what he did for the Seattle Seahawks when he was there, and with the San Francisco 49ers as defensive coordinator there. So I'm really intrigued by that. But like you said, I'm more intrigued by the Chicago Bears because they're kind of in the same situation as Atlanta Falcons, right? As far as having a lot of money to spend, they had a lot of draft capital. They moved around a little bit at the top part of their draft, and then there was a lot of conversation about whether or not Justin Fields was going to be the guy, or is the new regime going to bring in their guy, because Justin Fields was picked by the previous regime. So I think that when you think about it from that standpoint, and of course he's from here, I'm just like, all right, yeah, the Jets. I'm tired of Aaron Rodgers, for the most part. So I think I'm going to be the guy that say, you know what, I would not mind at all seeing what the Chicago Bears do. And I think, and I can't remember when they were on there, and at least I know it hasn't been in the last 5-6 years or so. So right. I think it would be good to kind of see the Chicago Bears and Justin Fields get a little shine on.
And I think you make a great point, because right now I believe they're in a rotational situation where they've gotten it down to 4 because from a requirements perspective, everyone else has told them, oh, hell no, we're not doing it. And so now it becomes the NFL saying, okay, who has to do it by virtue of, like you said, the rotation, if you will. There are some other factors there as well. And I thought that was kind of intriguing, like, oh, wow, there are actually criteria that you put in place such that if you get to a point where all 32 teams have the audacity to tell you what they're not going to do, then you can say, no, right. At least 4 of you have to. Now, word on the street is that the Jets have pushed back the hardest, and maybe they have the ability to kind of say, I'll go with a soft no. So we might actually get what we are hoping for, in that it might come down to the Bears. I hear that the Saints are pushing second hardest and saying, yep, you got nothing here. Your requirements don't matter. You can't force us to do it. Like, you can't make me. Mm-hmm. So it seems like we're probably going to get that. But low key, here's the funny thing. Nobody's talking about the Commanders, but Riverboat Ron might be intriguing all unto himself, and to see, since that organization was such a clusterfuck the last couple of years, to just kind of see what are they doing to kind of bring it all back together and be respectable again. I don't know. That might be something too.
And our guys down there too, or up there, so to speak, Eric Bieniemy. So we'll see what he's going to do with that dude that they have, Sam Howell. They have a quarterback.
Yes, and Montez Sweat is there, local guy. So that might be intriguing to ATLians,
Yeah, so I think it's really going to be interesting as to how they handle this, because like you said, there are teams that are obviously pushing back, and there are the teams that are obviously pushing back has the most storylines. And the NFL is like, hey, we want people to watch this doggone thing, and we know people don't really care about the Commanders because the sale isn't official just yet. So hey, there's still some Daniel Snyder residue on that organization as we speak. So, but yeah, we hope you guys be checking out who's going to be picked to be on Hard Knocks, because we definitely will. And we also want to just say thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day, because we really appreciate you. All you guys every day has been dropping the comments. We see them. Appreciate you as well. My guys, Archangel, Slim Pickens, Robert Blackman, all those guys, they've been commenting and let us know they rock with us each and every day. We appreciate you guys.
Antonio, who stopped me at the FedEx on Saturday in Jonesboro. Yes. What's happening, Antonio? Thank you so much for rocking with us.
Shout out to you, Antonio, my guy. We appreciate you, man. And you can be just like Antonio. So you can be an everydayer as well. We're free and available wherever you download your podcast. And last but not least, before we get out of here, people, make sure that you don't do anything else in life. Make sure that you share love, show love, and most importantly, spread love.